I'm upgrading my truck with the Retrax XR Pro Tonneau system and the Yakima HD Ladder rack. I'm no MacGyver, but I think I can install it all by myself. I'm going to test the installation process and see how she handles a heavy load on some wonky dirt roads. Plus, I might give you some hacks for your truck along the way. Let's go.
All right, so as you can see here, I'm laying out a couple of tables almost level with the bed of my truck. I feel like that's just a much more efficient way to work on something like this. Unboxing the side rails. This is obviously going to include the hardware and the clamps to install everything. And here you see the side rails in front of you. They do have the T-slots for the optional ladder rack. And then unbagging the hardware, we're just going to lay out our clamps, our nuts and bolts, and the Allen wrenches. And here it is, the Retrax XR Pro tonneau cover system. I did not opt for the EQ. The last thing I want to be doing is opening up apps and other junk like that when I'm out and about in the wilderness trying to get disconnected from technology. And then removing the brackets and spacers that are, again, just for safe shipping, but save those spacers, you're going to need them. Here you see I turned it around to make it more aligned with where we're going to put it. There's the keys. This part I was a bit skeptical about. I wasn't sure how long it might take to install the rail. I did drop a screw down into the canister, but luckily it dumped right out and I went back at putting on the rail. Overall, I give that a 7 out of 10. That was fairly easy. Put in a couple Phillips head screws to secure it to the canister. They went a little rough, but I think they're supposed to because really you don't want these coming loose, so that's understandable. There we are installing the second screw, and then we're pretty much just going to repeat that process on the other side. Now all we have to do is install this front cover. Once again, screws a little bit tough to get going, very small Allen screws and a small Allen wrench. Threading was a little bit rough once again, but sure, we need those to stay tight, so that's understandable. Here we are snugging down, and of course this process is done in a few minutes. Now for the fun part, using a rope to hoist this up. I saw a lot of videos of guys getting their wives to help them. That seemed to be more work than what it was worth because their wives maybe weren't tall enough, so I just tried this myself, and look at that. It went perfectly fine. Weighs less than 100 pounds. Piece of cake. Remove your rope and get yourself out of the way. Then you can move the entire system up towards the bulkhead where you can begin to manipulate that weather stripping. I did see some videos where people put the weather stripping with some wrinkles on it. I wanted to spend a few extra minutes to get that perfectly square and flat, and that was easy enough. Next, it was time to shim up the rails and get them tight against the tailgate. Stick in the shim, pull it towards your body, piece of cake. And here you see I'm doing some hasty measuring. I gotta be honest though, this all kind of fell into place. I really didn't have to make much adjustments or adjust the white set screws or spacer screws, whatever you want to call them. I pretty much just snugged the white screws in place and started clamping in the system. This was fairly simple. You do need to tilt up the bed rail as you see me attempting here to put a little 2-degree drip on it. And I did that on the first one, very few problems. Second one, the clamp didn't quite want to fit on, but I got it. Third and fourth ones were quite a bit more tricky. I had to take the clamp completely apart to get them to fit, probably because it wasn't perfectly square on the truck bed, but I was trying to work without my cameras dying, so I worked quickly, and I think it still worked out pretty well. And as you can see, I'm closing the cover now, and it closes just fine. Here it is in real time. Wow, I can't believe it. For as fast as I was working, that actually went together pretty smooth. Here I am checking the gap on the weather stripping near the rear window, and everything lined up perfectly. I gotta say, the corners were tight, tailgate closed just perfectly, checking the weather stripping. You know, I'm not an expert at truck accessory installations, but this actually went pretty darn smooth. And removing the plastic was about a 5 out of 10 on the fun scale, but we got it done. Now, I hate to end on this note, but these drain tubes were pretty cheesy. They said they would snap in almost like an electrical connection, but it just wasn't true. I really fought with this for like 25 minutes before I decided, hey, screw it. Plus, they don't fit in the drain tubes in my truck, so I just left them lay because I'm not about to drill holes in my brand new truck. All that to be said, look how sexy this is, look how strong this is. I'm pretty much your average guy, and I put it in about 2 hours.
No complaints here, but that might have been the easy part. Let's see how this ladder rack fits with the Retrax and if I can continue installing it all myself.
Oh, this is cool. This feels like it weighs like 5-6 pounds at most. On the bottom, it has these measurement lines. That's really nice. All right, here we go. Let's open up the HD Tonneau set. This is gonna have the towers and all the hardware we need to get this mamma jamma going. A couple little locks. These are cool. I think these give us the ability to lock down the tower so nobody can steal them. I believe these are some type of spacer pad, but we'll find out. Ooh, there's the first tower. These welds, those are like a 1/2 inch thick. This is not sponsored, by the way. I'm just a nice guy. So if I'm hyping them up at all, it's out of the kindness of my heart. So I'm gonna take my time. I'm gonna install this right, and we're gonna see how we like it. An important note, I'm actually putting this on the Retrax XR tonneau cover system. If you're just putting this ladder rack on just a straight truck bed, the install is gonna be a little bit different, but you'll still get the idea. All right, so step one, we're gonna insert these T-bolts into the T-slots, 4 of them total on each side. This is the next step, to put these in and align the T-bolts through the holes in the pads. I'm gonna try to line this up, going off the grooves on the Retrax. That looks close enough. Okay, let's see what the next step is. This looks like a driver's side tower. Let's see how this lines up. The cap nut goes in the crotch of this brace right here, and I'm just gonna snug this because who knows what's gonna happen, and I don't wanna commit to any one position. Now on the front, instead of a cap nut, we're gonna put a locking post. That's gonna give us the ability to place our key lock on this so it's tamper resistant. So we're just gonna repeat the exact same process on the rest of the 3 posts, and then we're gonna adjust them and align them. Never forget your washer. Never use your nuts without protection. So I guess only 2 of the towers get this locking post. I don't understand that. You would think you would want to lock everyone down. Maybe there's logic to that I'm not seeing right now, so let's keep moving. Dude, these bars already look sick. They match the Retrax just perfectly. They match the tone of my truck and my color scheme perfectly. This is gonna look dope, man. All right, there's all 4 bolts. I'm gonna bust out my tape measure and I'm gonna get these lined up really almost close. I'm gonna go ahead and snug one of these down. I'm using the provided wrench because that might be all that you have to use. Okay, that's about 10 nanometers. Let's go to the other side, try the same thing. So again, you're only cranking these down to 10 nanometers per the instructions. I don't have a torque wrench. Most people I know do not. Therefore, I would say just get it snug. You don't want to compromise your rails. That's the weird thing about this system. It's all sitting on C-clamps and loosely tightened nuts. Yet supposedly it can hold 500 pounds static, 300 pounds on-road in motion, and 180 pounds off-road. That's where my skepticism comes in, and that's why we're gonna load this thing down. Let's finish the install. So this can literally go all the way back or all the way forward, whatever you prefer. Again, I think I'm gonna stick it just as far as it can go without looking weird. All right, now let's measure from tower to tower. Looks like we're right at 31 3/4 of an inch. Let's repeat that on the other side. Perfect. Let's tack it down and move on to the next step. Now, you might be asking yourself, how do we snug these locking posts down? That's an Allen wrench, which I'm gonna grab right now. Pretty snug, but I'm hoping it's just the Loctite. It makes you feel like they're bottoming out. All right, all 4 posts are installed. I'm just gonna go around and do a little earthquake test. And I've heard this in other reviews. They're a little wonky individually. As you can see here, I can pretty much play with that a 1/2 inch from side to side. But once the HD bars are on top, I hope that everything will stabilize. Again, we only have locking posts on the driver's side of the truck. That gives me pause, but I'm just gonna have faith that that makes sense. So next, we're gonna install these cool little Yakima lockers. I guess they're gonna pop right on the locking bolts we just tightened down. Okay, so this is kind of funky. I would want these facing out, but that won't happen because of the welds. So I guess they're gonna be facing in. I guess I have to use the key to set it. So that's locked. All right, this is a keyed Allen wrench. That's cool. It's got a little hole inside. That's because the bolts that we're gonna tighten down have a little probing hole. You can't get a typical Allen wrench inside that. That I like. All right, so I'm gonna set these right at 21 inches and hopefully that'll get me clearance over the roof of my truck when I wanna put a long ladder on there. I don't wanna scratch the roof of my new 2022 Silverado. This is one of the modifications you put on your truck. And for the next 2 months, you offer to drive everywhere you and your buddies go. Now you might notice I'm sitting on this Retrax system and it supports my 192 pounds. So again, this is tower number 3, setting it at 21 inches, just like the other towers. And I'm making this up as I go, but I think if I just rough in that HD bar right there and I take the other HD bar and lay it across, I can gauge whether or not I'm gonna clear the cab of my truck. I am just clearing it. I'm not gonna lie to you, it feels good putting this system on. Everything seems to go pretty smooth. This is the last height adjustment of the towers. Have them all set at 22 inches. Just tall enough to avoid colliding with my cab and just low enough, hopefully, to be able to get out of my garage door. Let's go read the instructions, throw on these bars, make sure we're doing it right. So the first thing you're gonna do, turn over the HD bar so the measurements are facing up. Remove one of the end caps. That's simply done by undoing the Allen bolt, popping off this end cap. Now we're gonna slide in these threaded plate bolts. Okay, so we're gonna put these both kind of in the middle. That way we know where they are when we go to install this bar. Let's take this over to the truck, roughly put it in place. All right, so here we're just gonna install these 4 M8 bolts, bolt, lock washer, flat washer, boom, up into the HD bar, and that's just my guess. Tired of reading instructions, I'm not on the plate. I feel like I bit the plate there. Yes, I got the plate. I'm just gonna leave that loose and do the next one. Slide the threaded bolt into place. What I learned on the last one was take your time to line that up. Much less time you're gonna spend fishing for threads. All right, cool little trick to line these up. Lift up the HD bar, stick it through that little hole in the plate, drop it down, and you'll be pretty much lined up. Let's try it. All right, here's where I talk smack. This is a pain in the butt. It's like it's not even close. I can't get anything to bite right here. Here's the problem, because this tower is leaning over so much, it's not gonna allow the right gap between the tower and the HD bar. And there we go, I got a bite. All right, putting in the very last bolt, we're just gonna snug this down, and then we'll adjust our bars from side to side. Then the moment of truth, will I be able to get this out of the garage? 41.25, 41.25. Good enough for me. Let's torque them down. 42, 41.5, 41.5. This is it. I'm tightening down the last HD bar and then we're home free. All right, here we go. Let's see if I can escape. Booyah! Let's load this sucker up with 180 pounds, take it off-road, and see how it handles. So you remember that hack I told you about in the beginning? I'm gonna show you right now an awesome way to add additional anchor points anywhere along the side of your bed. Just grab a typical chain from any hardware store, get one of these handy opening chain links, hook that one there. Anywhere along this chain, you have an additional anchor point to secure your cargo. Now, here's how you secure a ladder to a roof rack using a TorkStrap. You're gonna loop it around, go over your cargo, and hook it anywhere to your auxiliary chain. And then all you gotta do, give it a yank, you're done. Now, no matter if this shifts or sinks, we're gonna stay secure because we have spring-loaded power band tension. Voila. That truly ain't going nowhere. All right, so we got a 50-pound ladder on the rack. We're about to put 130 pounds of random weight into this heavy Yeti cooler, and then we'll take it all for a spin. 321. Okay, 130 pounds. Grand total of 180 pounds. This will be a sufficient test to see if it lives up to expectations. Whew. Now, to strap this thing down and ensure it doesn't turn into a lethal weapon on the highway, we're gonna wrap over our ladder with the HD and just give it a yank. she's good to go. Let's take this thing off-road.
Overall, I'd say I'm satisfied with the Yakima ladder rack and how it fits with my Retrax XR Pro cover system. I installed it all myself in less than 3 hours. It looks sick, and it's fully handling a heavy load while I mob out on these dirt roads. Yeehaw!